Right, this starter was all about the discriminant. Now, what we have is you've got the quadratic formula even, and that's actually given to you in the exam. Okay, so that's something you don't need to worry about remembering. Now, if we have a wee look at the bit that's under the square root sign, which is b squared minus 4ac, this is called the discriminant, right? And that actually just tells us the nature of the roots. So it doesn't tell us whereabouts they are, but it tells us the nature, okay? And it's based on if you see an equation in this form, okay? So if you see an equation in this form, you're basically putting these values, okay? So that's a coefficient for x squared, that's a coefficient for x, and then the value c. And you put it into this equation, and the wee rules are, if the number that you get is less than 0, we can say that this quadratic doesn't have any real roots, and your essential meaning it doesn't cut through the x-axis anywhere, okay? If it turns out that this formula, this wee equation, the wee formula actually gives you 0, then there's basically there's a real root here and they're equal, okay? So the roots are equal, and if it's greater than 0, then the roots are real and they're unequal, so that value is not the same as that. So that's all that means. Now, to actually work this out, what you've got, and just make sure you can actually see that example, the very first example is x squared minus 6x plus 8. So you write this formula and then you just place the values in. Okay, so what we've got is x squared. Okay, now the coefficient for that will be 1, okay, 1x squared. So what we say is we can say that is a, minus 6 will be b, okay, and the 8 will be c. So what it's saying is b squared. So that is minus 6 squared, and then minus 4, a is 1, so that is 1, and c is, what's c? c is 8. So what we have is that minus 6 is squared, that's 36, and that's minus 32, which equals 4. Now, that means that this one applies, okay? So the roots are going to be real and unequal, okay? So we can say the roots are real and unequal. Right, now we then move on to the next one, okay? So what we've got here is, again, it's just using b squared minus 4ac. So b is 1, so that's 1 squared, that's minus 4. A is 4, and c is 3, okay? So that's going to give us 1 minus, so 4 times 4 is 16 times 3. So 16 times 3, that is 48. I should have been able to do that in my head. Oh, it's been a long day. And that gives you equals minus 47. And we have a wee look, so it's less than 1. So you end up having an equation or a graph that looks like this. So that is, there are no real roots, okay? So there are no real roots. And that's essentially how you do that. Okay, so if they're asking you about the discriminant, remember what they're really wanting you to use is that part of the quadratic formula. Okay, this bit there. And that's given to you, but you'll need to remember what actually happens if it's less than 0, if it's 0, or if it's greater than 0. And that's your answer to that one.